try to get my slideshow to work. Come on, come on, come on. Oh, are you seeing the whole screen?
No, I'm seeing your screen view slide, the raw PowerPoint, not the presenter view.
Okay. Oh, no, let me get back. I think I know what I've done. I'm just going to stop share and start again while people are logging in.
Okay, now we've just got a full screen of view, Jackie. Oh, there we go.
Okay. So now you can see the full screen, or if you've still got my notes and things.
Can, but you're on the second slide, not the first slide, just to let you know.
Yeah, but you can see the full screen.
Yes, it's in presenter view now. Yeah.
Great. Now I get to. Oh, that's better. Okay.
There's no one. That's it. That looks nice. There we go.
Yeah.
That looks pretty.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our second ROC at Work webinar. This will be a fun one, a bit more casual than our last one. Lots of data last time. Data, graphs, charts, lots of things like that, economists and spreadsheets and things. So this time will be a lot more fun and casual. So welcome. If for those of you who are joining us for the first time, this series of webinars is presenting to you some of the sessions that we ran at our annual conference, the Revenue Optimization Conference, which was on at Marina Bay Sands in Singapore a few weeks ago. We wanted to try to make sure we can share some of the great content with a wider audience who couldn't make it to Singapore. We know lots of you can't afford the time to travel and can't get there and have to go in quarantine and all sorts of reasons why people can't come. So we're here sharing it out, and this gives us a bit more chance to have some discussion about the topics at the same time. Okay, so this is the series. Last week, as I said, was the economic one. This week is all about sales, the mindset, the strategies, the challenges. Paul from Millennium Hotels is going to give us an overview of his thoughts on this, and then we can have a bit of a discussion about how that's impacting everybody. Okay, so a quick HSMAI update. HSMAI is the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International. We have 4 regions around the world. Obviously, we're here in Asia Pacific, but there's Americas, Europe, and the Middle East is our newest chapter. We focus on people who work in revenue, sales and marketing, and leadership of those commercial disciplines. And we sort of have different offerings for people all the way from getting ready to be in those departments, upskilling, certification, and then masters like Paul. We do events, well, hopefully face-to-face events in 8 markets around Asia Pacific at the moment. We've stretched to India and Maldives this year, and we did a few in Japan as well. So that's our first time for doing those. But before that, we've had those other chapters running for many years now. There's loads of events there, but just to focus on the few things that are coming up soon. After this ROC at Work series, we'll have some masterclasses that'll be webinar style classes, building your commercial acumen, and then we've got one on using content to improve your conversions. And then for those of you who might be thinking about actually starting total revenue management, there's one to get you started, which is total revenue forecasting. Just got to work out the dates with all the trainers and that so that I can confirm the dates, but they'll be live soon. And then just another note for people, especially in Thailand, we are running a digital sales summit in September in Phuket. So that'll be a half-day conference style event, and then we'll be doing 2 days of training workshops on the 14th and 15th. And then you can stay in lovely Phuket for the weekend if you want to come over and visit us while we're there. Then before that, actually, we'll be doing another webinar series on mice, the future of mice. So that will be interesting. We're doing that on a market-based webinars on separate markets, sorry. Don't know why that was hard to say. So that'll be coming up in August, and then the last few cities will be later in the year. And then another one in-person thing that we're doing is a training workshop on revenue in Delhi at the end of October. It's a 2-day workshop, so that'll be good. And just so you know, we have a whole lot of online education as well. There's 3 certifications, there's more than 20 online courses now, and there's 2 certificate programs. You probably know HSMAI for the certifications. The main ones are the revenue management certification and digital marketing. So that's a way to prove that you are an expert in those areas. And also, so you know, there's a lot of educational videos and things on our YouTube channel. So if you want to chime in and have a look at that, you'll find a whole wealth of information in there. Okay, so let's get started. I hope you have some questions. As Paul goes through his session, please drop your questions into the Q&A or the chat button at the bottom of your screen. And then we will have a look at answering them at the end of Paul's session. Please ask questions. That's why we're having it webinar style, not just giving you a recording. It's so that you can get involved in the conversation. Okay, so I'll hand over to you, Paul. I'll stop sharing my screen and.
Thank you, Jackie. Let me try to share my screen. Are you able to see my screen there?
Yep, we can see your screen, but not in presentation mode yet. That's it. That's it.
Okay.
You're on. Okay, I'll go on mute now.
Hi, everyone. It's June 2022 now. About what, 2.5 long years since this whole pandemic started. And some of you could have probably been traveling around and flying around on holidays already, on some business trips. Some people may have been in Singapore for this conference and still listening in. But honestly, the way we see, normal still isn't here. China is still not able to travel in and out without quarantine. Yesterday, they did announce, though, that the quarantine period has been shortened, right? 7 days plus 3 instead of 14 plus 7. So that's a step in the right direction. Japan hasn't really opened yet, with the exception of some tour groups going into the country. Hong Kong and Taiwan, they are not fully open without traveling without any quarantine. For the rest of us in Singapore, for those in Singapore, we can't walk into a building without masks yet, unless there's food in front of you. Otherwise, it's mask up all the time. So is it really normal? Not quite. Is conferences really back yet? No, there are some hybrid ones still happening. And is business travel back up to pre-COVID levels? Definitely not. Depending on where you are in the world, I think vaccination will play a big scope in deciding what destinations become more popular than the others right now. So that's the scope of the situation right now. And if you look at the last 2.5 years, a conference like that is been so much of the norm, isn't it? And I think it is going to be the next new normal of sales, right? As we decide what part of normal to rush back to, let me share with you some statistics from McKinsey & Co. So 85% of B2B customers around the world, of 3,000 B2B customers that McKinsey & Co. interviewed, they expect hybrid sales reps to be the most common sales flow. Why is that? Because 2 in 3 B2B customers prefer remote interactions. The reasons range from convenience that they've experienced throughout this period. The reasons also covers stuff like concern about safety and security and health as well now, right? For some people, a lot of people in Singapore, they live with young children and they live with elderly parents. And it's not about them catching COVID, it's about them carrying a virus back to infect the rest of the family as well. So a lot of B2B customers now, after 2.5 years of FaceTime, they prefer remote interactions, and that's the brutal truth. And if that's the case, then I want to start the afternoon by asking a question, because virtual selling has become the norm in the last 2.5 years, right? Everybody is so attuned to attending conferences, video calls, interactions like this, even sales presentations like this. So virtual selling has become the norm. So if you can help me unmute the group, Jackie, I just want to hear feedback from everyone, if possible. With regards to virtual selling, what are you uncomfortable with? Or is everybody very comfortable with virtual selling already? Is there anybody who want to share your thoughts? Susan. I can't quite hear Susan.
Hang on a minute, Susan, I'll find you. Here she is. Okay, Susan, you're on.
Hi, hello, hi, this is Susan. Yeah, just virtual selling, basically, you got to talk through your computer. You don't have that face-to-face kind of connection, so that is kind of hard. And also because of virtual selling, a lot of times you will have the technical issue and connection issue. Yeah, that is the challenges.
Absolutely true. Have you found solutions to that in the last 2.5 years, Susan? Or has anybody found the same issues to be a pain points, and anybody have any solutions that you want to share with Susan?
Well, I guess our solutions is really making sure the technologies are there. So basically updating all the tools we are using, and also the trainings and making sure everyone are comfortable using the tools. So that is basically one thing. And then secondly, I guess we also did some training on cold calling. A lot of times you probably can also, not only go through from your computer, you can also talk through phone calls. And yeah, and then now the situation is getting better. So we're all back to face-to-face sales calls now, which is good.
Oh, that's so good to hear, right? But my personal opinion, and tell me if I'm wrong, Susan, or anybody else out there, even if the pandemic goes away, and we're all in endemic situations now in most countries, face-to-face selling will come back, but video calls and virtual selling, I think, is here to stay. It was already gaining traction even prior to COVID. And I think COVID just accelerated that whole adoption of virtual selling. I see 2 more raising hands. Sorry, Jackie, making you work like this. I think we got to unmute a couple of others who have raised their hands. I think Stephen has also posted something in the chat to say there's a lack of physical interaction. That absolutely is a pain point. And Nihal has said about face-to-face relationship always makes a big difference. Why is that, Nihal? Why does face-to-face relationship make a big difference as opposed to FaceTime relationship? Anybody at all?
Anyone want to volunteer for that one?
Nihal, yes, you can talk. I think you can unmute yourself, can you? Jackie, can Nihal unmute yourself? Or
yeah, who to unmute? Is it Stephen?
Stephen and Nihal, I think.
So Stephen, if you did want to ask a question or answers that one, you can go ahead.
For me, it's just the physical interaction is important purely because it's easier to read body language when you're face to face, and it feels more personable than to actually do the selling through a phone or through Zoom. So for me, I still prefer the physical presence of being able to discuss issues face to face.
Absolutely. I think we all do. And a big thing about face-to-face is eye contact. You talk about body language, you can only see this part of me, right? And from chest up, for a lot of us here on the screen, how are you going to see if the person's arms are folded, the person is receptive to what you're saying? And what about eye contact? That is one of the key things about face-to-face selling, isn't it? It's all about the eye contact. And if you can't have eye contact on screen, how are you going to establish trust and credibility, right? It's a little bit more difficult.
Okay, and Wesley had his hand up as well. You ready, Wesley? Wesley, did you want to say something? Or did you accidentally put your hand up?
I think Nihal wanted to say
That's
something.
fine.
I think Nihal wanted to say something, Jackie.
No, it doesn't look like it.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, there's some participants who raised their
Oh,
hands.
actually, I've got the chat here. Yeah, Sonia, did you want to
Yes,
ask
Sonia?
something? Sonia, did you want to say something?
Yes,
Come on, you can talk.
No, I was just waiting if everybody else had finished. So thank you, Paul. Yes, that's a very valid question, I would say. I think keeping your buyers engaged and responsive throughout the meeting is something of a challenge that I would say I still face, and possibly the others as well. And you're very right, it's the body language that actually determines whether the person is really responsive and engaged. And if I only maintain eye contact wide a camera, it's a little bit difficult. Yes, people will be smiling and nodding their heads, but I'm not really sure whether they're connecting. So I find that a bit of a question mark there.
Very good point, Sonia. And let's talk about eye contact a little bit, since you brought it up as well. And following on Stephen's body language. Right now, I am trying to establish eye contact with all of you as I speak. And that's because I'm looking into the camera of my laptop. And if I don't look at the camera of my laptop, and if I'm looking at all your faces on the little screen below, I'm not having eye contact with you.
It's true. That's hard to get used to, isn't it?
Yeah, but see, the key, it happened to me one day when I was talking to a salesperson, and that person was looking at me and talking. And when I was talking, that person was looking at me right in the eye. It was a totally different feeling during the whole COVID period, because nobody had eye contact with me through all the conference calls that I've had, right? Because we are so busy looking at the screen. And that one chat made a difference to me and kind of awakened something in me to say that this is so different from face-to-face, because we have lost that bit of eye contact. And if I'm looking at the camera, I can't see what your body language looks like. And if I'm looking at you now, I'm not having that eye contact with you. There are keys to that. There are ways that you can position a camera against another screen at the back, and you can kind of like what newscasters do, right? They're actually reading from a script, but actually they are having kind of eye contact with you. So there are ways that we can leverage technology to do that. But that means a little bit of investment, a little bit of positioning with the hardware.
Ah, that's a good tip. I like this. This is a good tip.
That's the bit about the upselling.
I'm not a salesperson, so I've got to learn from you guys.
Right?
You are a very good salesperson, Jackie.
I think we have another one person. We have another one person who wanted to say something. Nihal, I'm not sure if that's how I pronounce your name.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Finally.
Yeah,
Hi. Yeah. The thing is, when you are attending to the exhibition, which we all used to attend for a long years, right? And what we have right now missing is, yes, eye contact, yes, and face-to-face relationship, yes. But also, I mean, we miss to hug each other. We miss to, laugh each other. We miss to, talk jokes, and then, but other than the body language is also touching to each other. I mean, hugging to each other. I mean, these are the things are really the most important things, is really building the relationship, especially in our tourism industry, because we all keeping this relationship with this close, hugging and building this relationship in that way. So that is one of the things is missing, especially. You have a point when you are doing a webinar and you talk to for example, we do the webinars, we talk to the travel agencies, we explain about our product, we explain about the things about the product, but I'm sure that they are all listening the same thing with every kind of hotels, which they are making the same webinar. But there is no difference. So the only thing that makes a big difference is the human itself, the person itself, the relationship itself. Other than that, of course, all the agencies are selling the hotel eventually. Yeah. So this is what we are missing at the moment.
Thanks for that,
Yeah, I
Nihal.
think it's the things that are left out of a Zoom call, correct? It's all the little things that build a relationship.
Yeah,
the Zoom call
absolutely.
is cutting to the raw bones of what you're talking about. It's straight to the point.
Right.
It doesn't have small talk,
Right.
and quiet jokes that usually build a quick bond. Yeah, but in saying that, do you think this is just one stepping stone anyway along the path to virtual meetings, virtual reality meetings in a very short future? I think there's going to be virtual meeting spaces with the goggles and whatnot. So we're on the road to heading there anyway. So it's about mastering new skills, I guess.
Yeah, true. Agree.
Thanks a lot, Nihal. And for a hugger like me, you can imagine how
for a
things
hugger.
the last 2.5 years must be.
Yeah.
Virtual hug to you.
Thank you so much.
Now, thanks for
So lovely.
writing in. You see, the other thing is people suffer from kind of pandemic fatigue, screen fatigue. Sitting in a conference room, face to face, you have colleagues around you, you share the laughter, like what you said. It's so different from sitting in front of a screen, having to focus on the screen, right? And for people who are doing presentations, sometimes if you don't see the faces of the salesperson or of the buyer, you're not even sure whether the person is multitasking, right? How many of us have done that? Mute ourselves, no videos, and there we are clearing our emails, right? Until the name is called. Can you repeat that again?
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
Right. So it's not just it's so difficult with a lot of things. I'm just going to move on from this. I'm going to share a quick video. You don't need sound to understand what the video is all about. It's all about the difficulties of having video presentations. Anybody been through situations like that or seen some things like that? Not exactly the same, maybe. Yeah. You got to remember
getting
the
seasick.
You got to remember to turn that video off. That's what happens when we are multitasking, right? With the video on.
Yeah.
And you get situations, funny situations over the pandemic.
But I think people are much more tolerant of things going wrong now as well. On the other side, that we can all laugh at that now and not think, oh, that's so unprofessional or something. And we just all get a laugh out of it.
I know, but you're right.
Does that does that become the new kind of icebreaker? You know, have stuff happening embarrassing in the background to break the ice in a meeting. Okay, and back to the meeting. And maybe that's the classic icebreaker now in the age of Zoom.
You tell your 3-year-old at exactly 5 past, come running in.
Correct. Yeah, so come running in with no clothes on and with a catastrophe to deal with. Correct.
And you catch the
But
attention of the buyer,
I
right?
seriously think that, you know, kids coming onto the camera, a doggy showing his little snout, I think these have become a norm now. And nobody minds,
Yes.
honestly.
Correct.
You know, because the office has entered our homes. So, you know, that's the best we're
Correct.
making of it.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean that in terms of the new icebreaker, it is partly that is a little bit of your real life comes into the Zoom, and that wasn't possible before with face-to-face. You couldn't have your daughter turn up on camera in the meeting so forth. So it could be a new form of icebreaker in some ways.
Yeah, I think you're right,
strategically.
And I think it's that you also don't have to be all perfectly groomed in that anymore. You know, we accept that you're at home in your fitness gear or your, you know, even your PJs sometimes. Maybe not for a sales call, but, you know.
Each to their own, Jackie. Yes, each to their own.
Yeah.
I like my flannel jammies. Oh, that's funny.
Okay.
No, but I think what Glenn said is actually very helpful, because, you know, earlier you would stop by in the office at someone's desk and inquire how you're doing, how's the family, etc. Now you see them on the screen, and you can still do the rapport building and, you know, stuff like that.
And you see people's houses and that, like you get to know people a lot better, don't you? You see where they live and sometimes their family or their friends.
And if they have a bar, invite yourself there. So
yeah. And I think what Sonia said is the office has now entered the home at least 50% of the time if you're a hybrid worker. So maybe that's part of the charisma or part of the attraction of, as Paul was saying, it's just a new set of skills, really. I mean, be able to do face-to-face, and now you have to be able to incorporate Zoom or, you know, the digital side of selling, which is going to become commonplace. It's not going to go away, and it won't go back to 100% going back to physical contact, I don't think. Just purely because of cost savings, really.
I think speaking to a lot of my customers and corporates, they're looking at hybrid models. They're not going full time to office, at least 80% of them.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
totally
hybrid
true.
is the way it's going to be. Yep.
You know, in the last 2.5 years, I've moved prior to being at Millennium. I was 10 years with Marriott International, and when COVID hit, there were a few things that we had to do. We were all isolated. One of the things was to train people on how to do virtual selling and do it well. And there are some of the elements here that need to be reskilled or upskilled, right? And then at Millennium, the first things we did was to make sure our salespeople were well equipped and well skilled with doing this. So one is audio, right? We got to have proper audio. There's times where we can hardly hear the other person, and you can't really go into a negotiation with having audio situations. The other one is internet connectivity, and I think somebody brought it up just now. I think Susan did, where you cannot have good internet, and once you're trapped at home, some people's homes just don't have very good broadband or connectivity. Right? It's not anything of their fault, but in some countries, some areas, some zones do not have good connectivity, and you keep breaking off, and it's very disruptive to a sales presentation, for example. The other one is framing. Glenn and Jackie are the perfect examples of how framing should be done. Right in the center, you know, with not too much headspace and enough lighting, and that's how framing. Look at the newscaster again, middle of the frame, looking straight. You know, if you have your camera here, you miss out, right? Some people see too much of a ceiling or
yes.
You do see that a lot, surprisingly.
Or the camera too low down and it's looking up the nose. You know, you're looking up someone's. Yeah, it's not pleasant. And
if you have light behind you, well, you look like a witness in a witness protection program, right? If you're all dark.
Yeah.
So, very important element.
I guess, Paul, Paul, in terms of any meeting, business development meeting, you always have the checklist before you go in, even in a physical meeting. Have you got your cards? Have you got your presentation sorted out? Is your desktop on your computer clean? So when you open it, it's not messy. The same thing happens with digital presentations. You've got to go through the checklist, check your broadband, make sure you got speed, check your audio. Don't leave it to 2 minutes before the call. You've got to jump on 10, 15 minutes beforehand to get everything correct. So I think what you're saying is, it's just a part of the standard preparation now to getting on to a digital communication.
It is, but a lot of people take it for granted as well, and they don't, right? So because we're so used to sometimes going on FaceTime with our family that we forget that in a proper business discussion, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, right?
Yeah.
I've had a colleague whose home didn't have proper equipment, and she had to use her ironing board as a conference call table. I know of somebody else who called out of her kitchen every day, right? And there was this lady colleague of mine who was so in love with her soulmate, her husband for 10 years. They were like forever in love, but now she can't stand him anymore because they share the same table for conference call. He whines, complains, he's grouchy, and 2 years trapped like that. She can't stand him anymore. She likes to go on holiday for me time now, she says. Right? So how things have changed, right? All because of virtual sales calls. And you know how difficult it is to do virtual presentations. We can't even do at property level. We can't do a site inspection, a hotel tour virtually, right? It's so difficult to do a walkthrough on sales on the video. I've seen people that does recorded versions. I've seen people who actually brought a handphone and walked around the hotel, and you like watching a Blair Witch, the Blair Witch movie, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, kind of scary, handheld, scary.
Yeah. So all these are new techniques and new skills that a salesperson needs to pick up, because it's not going to go away after this, right? We've just accelerated the adoption of virtual selling. So how can sellers adapt? At the end of the day, everything comes back to basics, right? Focus on the 3 bits of what buyers value the most. Speed in turnaround, speed in response time. We all appreciate that. We are buyers and consumers ourselves. And this is something that we really appreciate, where people give us priority. We feel recognized, we feel grateful, and we're happy with that. Transparency, openness, transparency, honesty, everything builds trust. And people buy from people they know, they like, and they trust. So if your hotel is going to go through renovation, be honest about it. Not to sign a deal and then suddenly you're on renovation and the travelers begin to find out, right? So transparency and expertise. We all appreciate and we all deal with people who know what they're talking about. So salespeople, sometimes they try to smoke their way through, but at the end of the day, image is very important in this whole equation. Because at the end of the day, people buy you. It is you. It is not what you say or how articulated you are. It is not what you did for that sale for that buyer. It is how you make them feel. Let's just think about this. Anybody remember who won Miss Universe last year? Guess not. Anybody who remembered who won the Nobel Peace Prize last year? Maybe not. Who was Best Actor 10 years ago in the Academy Awards? Can't remember all that, right? Anybody remember a childhood friend who was with you while you grew up? Or a teacher who have helped you through school? Anybody can recall a relative, a friend who was with there in your lowest times in your life? Yeah, we all have that special people in our lives, right? People who touched us at certain times. So that's my point. People forget what you say, people forget what you did, people never forget how you make them feel. Right? So it comes back to a few things. And so you can be either a salesperson, and if you go to the beach, Bondi Beach in Sydney, all the crabs look the same, or all the prawns, all the seashells look the same anyway, right? But if you paint one pink, you can see that one from far away. So you elevate yourself from a salesperson to a skilled salesperson. Okay, good, good. Now you're well versed with technology. You're well versed with virtual selling. You're a little bit better than the normal salesperson who talks like that, right? But if you can bring yourself up to a trusted advisor level, now that's a lot different. So here's a question for you. Think of your doctor, think of your dentist, think even of your hairdresser. Why do you go to the same doctor all the time? Why do you go to the same dentist? Because you trust the dentist or the doctor, right? You trust that they genuinely know what they're talking about. You trust that they have your best interest at heart. And think about their selling process. Doctors make a lot of money, right? But they also like you to buy their things, buy their consultancy. They like you to buy the diagnosis of you and also buy the prescription, whatever medicine they're going to prescribe, right? So that's a whole selling process that the doctor has. And think about that process. How does it differ from the way you are selling? So what happens when you get into a clinic and to see a doctor? The doctor says, what's wrong with you? That's the first thing, right? And then you say, okay, I got this headache, I got this pain, I got this body ache. Doctor says, checks. Maybe you go for MRI or X-ray or hear your pulse a little bit. And the doctor says, yeah, I know what's bothering you. You got the virus, you got the bacteria, you got this, you got that, you got a fracture. But don't worry, this is going to be okay for you. You're going to rest this. You're going to go for physiotherapy. You're going to take these antibiotics. You're going to be all right. And you go out, you pay, and the doctor has made a sale. Done deal, right? But can you imagine if you go into a doctor's clinic and the doctor says, here, let me show you the catalog of all the painkillers I have. These are some that just arrived this week. This is new painkiller. This is the oral one. This is the patch, right? And the doctor is not selling products or features, right? But so many salespeople I travel with in sales calls, they are so busy trying to show their lobby, their room, their PowerPoint decks, fancy looking ones. They're so busy trying to get to that slide about my renovation. We're not asking enough questions. And if ever you want to be a trusted advisor during the pandemic and after the pandemic, this is even more important than anything else. The art of asking questions, right? Salespeople are so busy talking, and sometimes while the customer is talking, the salesperson is busy trying to think of what to say after he stops talking. And you're not really listening. So the art of questioning, the art of taking notes, the art of analyzing what the person is sharing with you is very important, right? And look, the art of questioning is something that cannot be taken for granted. For example, anybody who has watched this show called The Two Popes will know what I'm talking about. There was a scene where the two popes were sharing having a dialogue. And one of the Pope was asking the other one, he says, if you go and ask a priest, can I smoke while I'm praying? The answer will be no. But if you go and ask the same priest, can I pray while I'm smoking? The priest will tell you you can pray anytime. But you're doing the same thing and to achieve what you want. So it's the art of asking power questions, right? High value questions that get you what you want. All right. And then it's the art of listening. Salespersons, a lot of salespeople need that as well. A lot of salespeople like the sound of their own voice. They can't stop talking and they're not listening enough. And information that comes through, they may miss great opportunities to capitalize on that. So finding out about needs. What is it that you need? What is your pain point? What is it that you need? And then objective, the why behind the what. This is what I need, and this is why I need that. Now, getting those things will help you become a trusted advisor faster than the best presentation or PowerPoint deck you can present, right? And then only after knowing what you need and why you need that, then you get to benefits, not even the features, right? My hotel is near the MRT station, big deal. That is a feature. But what is the benefit of your hotel being next to an MRT station? That is what you should be talking about before even getting to features, right? So the whole process of becoming a trusted advisor, that's the flow, right? Finding out the needs, caring about that, because the doctor will ask, what is the problem? What's bothering you? That's the first thing the doctor asks, right? Not talking about the medication, not talking about how the medicine can help you, but what is bothering you or what are you trying to achieve, right? Then the doctor shows level of expertise, right? I know what's bothering you. Let's do all these diagnoses. Let's do all these diagnostic tests, right? So that's the expertise part of it. And then whatever the doctor prescribed, no, you don't say, let me go and get 3 quotes for this painkiller, right? So if you can take that process, reframe and relook at the way that you're doing sales, you will elevate yourself to being a trusted advisor rather than all the salespeople around you. I'm going to pause here and take any questions that you have. And then the rest, if you want more details, that's another course that you need to sign up with HSMAI.
And I think, don't you think, Paul, as well, it's, you've got salespeople have to be even more of an advisor now that, you know, what HSMAI do events. So I talk to salespeople at hotels and where we take venues, right? And I do find often that they're not trying to advise me on what my best option is. But also on the other hand, I find they have to be an expert on what are the quarantine laws at the moment, how many vaxxers, what time do I have to have vaccine before I can leave? Like there's all these regulatory information that suddenly the salesperson has to become an expert on. Is they need to know all this stuff so they can tell me, and I'm from Australia, so they need to know, can I come? Do I have to have a test? Like, you know, there's a lot of COVID sort of information they need to know now as well.
No, that's true. So the salesperson has to be updated, right? So there are a few things. One, there's this level of salespeople who are very transactional and they're good at what they do. They're hunters, right? So we have always said that salespeople are hunters or farmers. Yes and no. Yeah. During COVID, when revenue was very, very challenged, you become a hunter and a farmer.
Yeah. Right?
No doubt some of us may have certain preference, certain way, but everybody's got to hunt. Every dollar counts to keep a job, right? So the transactional salesperson, in order to elevate up to the next level, of course, you need all this information, you need to get updated. But keeping updated with quarantine laws, with all these entry permits and all that is one thing. But keeping updated with a lot of things. So when we talk about expertise, the word just now when I shared about expertise, it is not just about knowing your product. It is not about knowing how high the ceiling is or whether you can do this or you can enter the country or not. It is knowing about that industry, that company, or that sales, that person that you're talking about or talking to. Let me give you a case. Right. If you are talking to somebody in the tech industry, you've got to know certain terms, right? If you're talking to somebody in oil and gas and you don't know what's the difference between upstream and downstream, then who's going to listen to you? If you're talking to somebody in the banking industry and you don't know what's commercial banking compared to consumer banking, compared to high net worth value individuals, stuff, basic terms like that, how are you going to get the years of this guy in Goldman Sachs, for example? Right? So you need to keep yourself updated with what's happening in the industry. Sure, they know that some people know the basic 101s and some of the terms that they fluff out, right? But the next thing is, are you aware about Shell and the protest they had in the UK recently because they're talking about net zero by the year 2050 and people are not happy. They say the timeline is too long. So if you are going to walk into a meeting with Shell, Google all this. Even though you are at the lift lobby, right? If you are going to a meeting with Apple, get to know what Apple is launching or what what challenges they're having before you get into the meeting, right? It's not just to get a yes, but you really get attention and they really respect you for that.
I have a question, Paul. In terms of, I mean, I think what we're, largely some of that, what we're talking about is sales, the art of selling, right? And the art of selling, I think, was there prior to COVID, and it's always a part of the sales process. You're either very good, or you just, regurgitate facts, or you know how to connect and find out what someone is feeling about your product, and if you can connect with that, you can sell. But, beyond that, so now that we've had the pandemic, coming back to sort of the core of this webinar is what do you think maybe is sort of the 2 or 3 additional like tangible skills the modern post COVID salesperson will need as a part of their repertoire? I mean, obviously, being able to command or set up a Zoom call and run that effectively, that's one, for example, that didn't really exist. It wasn't really a mandatory part of the skill set of a salesperson prior to COVID. So is there any others that some of our listeners can take into account that you think they'll need some really mandatory skills going forward?
Yeah, so the other few things, the other thing is part of virtual selling, but it's not really in front of a camera, is that like you can't, in many countries, you can't go and do cold calls anymore. For example, you can walk into offices, everybody needs to scan you, and everybody needs to keep certain boundaries. So cold calling today and introducing yourself to a lot of new people within the industry, expanding your network and exposure is now turned digital too. So selling via LinkedIn, for example, is key. Firstly, a salesperson
Yep. I think Paul's frozen.
Oh, yes, there you go. He's broken his golden rule. No. Okay, I think.
Yes,
okay, I think he touched on an interesting. He touched on an interesting point, though, in terms of even cold calling has changed. Like before, when you could approach an office building or so forth, now there's a lot of screening and checks and balances to be done. So I think he was onto an interesting additional skill. So until he comes back, Jackie,
I think he was starting to talk about getting your LinkedIn profile right. And are you back, Paul?
Correct.
Oh, yeah, you're moving again. You froze on us.
Yeah,
I know. So this is something that you should not do.
Yeah, this is the challenge that surfaces again and again.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah.
So updating your LinkedIn profile and making it stand out, that's one. But two, looking for customers within LinkedIn, expanding your network within LinkedIn, right? And the other thing is not about just who you know. Exposure and network is not about who you know. My father used to tell me when I was about to get into sales many years ago, in sales, the most important thing is who you know. I think my father lied to me. I know the president of the United States. We all know who the president of the United States is. He doesn't know me. Is he going to do me a favor? No, right? But let me give you an example. So engagement with, not just before COVID, I was engaging a lot with the president of ASEAN of General Electric, right? He comes to Singapore once in a while. I will have breakfast with him once in a while. He stays in the hotel. I'll just reach out to him. No, nothing on the agenda, just relationship building. And then one fine day he called me up about an RFP with a hotel in Jakarta. Can you imagine the president of ASEAN for GE calling me, a small little potato?
It used to be the biggest company in the world, so I imagine it's still a pretty big company, right?
About a hotel in Jakarta and the bid that we're putting in on the RFP. And he wants the hotel in. Travel manager doesn't want the hotel in because we are raising rates. And he was trying to get me inside information on how to get the hotel in, because when he goes to Jakarta, he wants to stay in the hotel.
He wants to stay there, yeah.
So look at that. So it makes a big difference of who knows you rather than who you know. So build relationships on LinkedIn. It has helped me a lot. LinkedIn. I've got a lot of businesses out of it. So that's something again, and it's not easy. getting your profile picture right, getting your highlights right, that few, you got limited alphabets. It's like writing your description of a hotel on GDS, right? You got to make that into a great advertising tool for you. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing that I learned during the pandemic is seriously, because there's a lack of face-to-face interaction, like Stephen and Nihal said just now, and Sonia as well. So everything is over Zoom, and over Zoom, unless you get people's attention, it's very difficult to keep the attention for a long time. And that's why I tried showing videos. I tried getting everybody to chip in and talk, because if I'm blaring around here for 1 hour, you guys are probably on mute and having a lunch or doing something else and not listening. So you just need to have a combination of techniques to keep everybody engaged and everybody interested, right? And the other
on that topic of Zoom and using Zoom, one of my questions was, has the positive side of Zoom, has that changed the nature of a business call or a sales meeting, where Zoom allows you to sort of patch in multiple people? So before, for example, it might just be the director of sales and a sales manager attending a sales call. Now you can instantly bring in the director of marketing, you can bring in the head of rooms onto a call to make it more interesting and more dynamic. So instead of only having one person speaking, it can be switching over to the expert of that department. Has that helped the sales process, do you think, or does it have the potential to help the sales process?
No, that is absolutely gone in the right direction there. Zoom is not all bad, right? It's not an evil thing out there. It has helped bring the world closer together. I mean, we do a lot of calls now from everywhere in the world, with everyone in the world, right? Those days we need to fly around for a conference. And it's really helped, very convenient. You can get anybody from any parts of the world, any subject matter experts onto a call at the same time. So that's definitely helped. But no, Zoom fatigue has definitely set in after 2 years, right? And everybody is so much in. Look, I tried to run a 2-day conference on Zoom a year ago. And at the end of the day, I was drained, and I know that all the participants were very drained. When we sit around a room, we have coffee breaks together, we have lunch together. It's so different. We go outside, take a little bit of fresh air for 10 minutes and a little bit of sunlight. Right now, we suffer from jaundice and lack of vitamin D because we're sitting in front of Zoom.
Yeah, exactly.
Jackie,
yeah, that's actually why we changed ours. We were going to do our whole conference in one day, the virtual conference the week after the face-to-face one. And then we said, well, hang on a minute, no one wants to sit in front of the screen all day. So we're better to break it up and have some lunchtime sessions, and people can chime in for an hour and then go back to work and come back next week, sort of thing. So,
exactly. And I've broken up all my little sales strategy meetings and all that into either 1 hour, one hour bits, or even if it lasts the whole morning, I break it up every 45 minutes, take a 15 minutes break.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And Paul, how do you see, in terms of sales, I think Jackie's had some really interesting statistics that prior to COVID, this hotel salesperson was responsible for around, I think, 30 to 40% of room sales in a hotel, whilst post-COVID and the adoption of digital sales channels are now responsible to, for maybe 10%, like a lower percentage of rooms are actually being sold by the salespeople because digital channels have obviously expanded. Do you see the role of the salesperson as a result of that changing in the future, like new duties being allocated to the sales manager or the director of sales to make up for the sort of difference?
To all the salespeople in this room, I don't think your job will be outsourced to a call center in Bangalore or a computer in Bangalore. So you'll be okay. But
there we go.
The market segments have shifted during the last 2 years, right? There were a lot more staycations than international travelers, of course. And with that, retail and business through OTAs and through brand.coms have, of course, gone up. It is, ever since the borders reopened a few months ago around in Asia, we have seen a big shift towards pre-COVID levels now. Then Singapore was, for our hotels in Singapore was about 90% of our overall market. Today is back to 30%
Wow.
within the last 3 months, right? And China is not back yet. So we've got Indians, we've got Indonesians, Malaysians, Thai, they're all here. Everybody is just so pent up waiting to travel. Business travel has not really come back. The local small, medium enterprises, they have started traveling, but the big,
Yes.
the big boys have, maybe they're at 50% of 2019 travels, depending on what industries you're in, right? Oil and gas, probably a lot more. IT, probably a lot more. The consulting boys, McKinsey and Accenture, probably they're back to 2019, or they've never stopped traveling throughout this period. But you know, a lot of other industries have not really come back to 2019 levels yet. So those relationships have to be built. This year, I know from a lot of corporate companies, in terms of B2B corporate segments, nobody's going to roll over RFPs anymore. The last 2 years, everybody was rolling over previous year's rates into the next year, right? Nobody's going to roll over rates anymore for next year. Neither do the hoteliers want a rollover rates, right? Everybody is trying to make up for lost time and rapid revenue recovery.
Yeah.
And I think we're due
Is
that.
Is it finally letting you change to dynamic rates? Is it finally giving you an opportunity?
So everybody wants dual rates, right? I mean, where negotiation is concerned, the buyers always want 2 rates, negotiated rate, and if the dynamic rates drop below negotiated rate, they want that rate. So,
yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that hasn't changed.
But the last 2 years rollover was quite easy, right? So RFP season, we had it easy a little bit, but this year for next year, nobody's going to roll over.
Yeah. And did you just coin a new term, rapid revenue recovery? Is that yours? Is that trademark to Paul O?
I've always been saying it. Right? So I don't know whether I coined it.
Okay, I like it. It's catchy. I like it
now.
Triple R.
Yeah, it's out there now. It's going to be used.
R cube. We like it. Paul,
Triple
I have
R.
a question.
Yes, Sonia.
So in this whole process, you know, when we're reaching our customers on the digital medium, how do we as salespeople demonstrate value to nurture these customer relationships?
Good one. You know, at the start of COVID, because see, we are salespeople, we ask for business all the time. At the start of COVID, I don't know, I wanted to make ourselves different from other salespeople, right? And not because at that point in time, every piece of dollar counts, right? Because everybody was trying to protect a job. Now, instead of asking for business, that was the time I told my team that we could make a big difference. Let's go out and care about the customers. Forget the business part, right? So that we care. Yeah. Ask them if they are okay. Let's not talk about work at all. Let's not talk about business. Let's not talk about any analysis. Let's ask them if they care. We sent, at that point in time, masks and sanitizers were very hard to come by. Everybody was hoarding them. We went out to get masks, sanitizers, vitamin C's, skipping ropes, and say you're trapped home.
Skipping ropes, good idea. Good idea. Like that one.
Please fit and exercise during this time.
Yeah, light, easy to send.
Nice.
We sent a voice recorded message. We videoed ourselves asking people if you're okay. Personalized messages, and we send text across the world. Right? So, and we are remembered for how we make people feel. Remember? So
yes,
times like that makes a difference. And you know, when COVID hit in Wuhan, we had a lot of travel managers who came to us because they were panicking. They needed to get the people out of there. Right? And hoteliers were scrambling. It was at the eve of Chinese New Year, I remember, in Singapore.
Yes.
Right? It was like Thanksgiving and nobody wants to work, right? So our team worked through that whole period just to help the travel managers. We said, we know you're having your worst time now, your darkest time, because it's Chinese New Year, you should be with your family. Here you are scrambling, trying to get information. Our Chinese hotels wouldn't help because they're all either panicking or they are in between family and freaking out. That was a time we said, let's make a difference. So it is times like that, or times of crisis, that we can turn them into opportunities.
Okay,
so,
well,
thank you for sharing that, Paul. Very helpful.
Show them you care. Make them know.
Yes.
Make them.
I think yes.
They remember you for for making them feel a certain way.
Yes.
That's a nice way to end this webinar. It's exactly on the hour now. Thanks for that, Paul.
Yeah.
That's really good. We really appreciate you sharing your experience and expertise with everybody. And I hope to see everybody next week for the session, digital marketing session. This will be a really fast-paced, amazing session. Carolina Zhang from Assembly Global will do digital marketing. It's basically like a 1-hour cram digital marketing course in an hour. So I think this will be full on. This one's been nice and gentle and conversational, but it'll be full on. Bring your notepads next week. Okay, so thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Paul. Again,
Thank you
very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah,
Very,
cheers.
very nice session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
I enjoyed
Thank
it.
you,
Thank
Paul.
you, Paul.
Thank you. It was very nice. Thank you.